could be a dog, you just don't know. But the assumption going in is that it's going to be an average house. So we have to work from that standpoint. Now, what you want to do is you want to get as much information as you can. So what I do always, I hit this, my matrix dashboard, and I'll come in here and say, somebody's got a house that they're curious about.
I can give you my address
Okay.
if you want, 6729.
6729. I don't go by the street name. I'm gonna put 6729 in there and just hit enter. And everything that's been sold, whatever, in MLS, 6729, it drops right there. You don't have to, in this screen, you don't have to stipulate sold, actives, pendings, whatever. Everything's there, okay? And I'm gonna come in here, sort it. What's the street?
You had, it was at the top of the list.
What's the street name?
Cherrywood Trail.
Cherrywood. So there it is, right there. Now, what I've got here is an old listing, and I've got a lot of information on this house. I have to assume, for the sake of argument, that this data is pretty much correct. There's your legal, everything's there, okay? But you're looking for two things primarily: how big it is, when it was built, and secondarily, subdivision, Bell Meadows, okay? That's because that's where you're going to key your searches from. Let's assume, for the sake of argument though, that she bought this house in 1980 and it hadn't been sold since then. You can't find anything in multiple listing because our database doesn't go back that far. When we shifted from one service to another, shifted to the matrix vendor, the old database service we used, they didn't like it. They wiped our database. So we didn't, everything that we've got in our database now is only as old as our matrix system usage is. So I don't know anything about it other than the address, 6729 Cherrywood. Well, we can get a lot of information right here. I'm going into property tax. 6729, and another little trick. Just put cherry in there. What do you mean, no? 6729?
You got one R.
You got, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's, thank you. It's terrible getting old. So now I know. Now I know how big it is per tax records, and bear in mind, when you're listing a piece of property, you have to quote your source. This is a source, tax records. I know I've got 2,219 square feet in the house, and the building was built in 1980. Information I got to have, subdivision, Bell Meadows. So two ways to get the information. You get more information from the old listing, because the old listing is gonna show you bedrooms and baths. Should give you lot size. There's your lot size. Normally, that's not very important when you're talking in residential subdivisions. When you get out in the country, then you start talking about that, and when you're dealing or trying to come up with value for country property, it gets a little bit more interesting. Lot size is a factor when you get out in the country, okay? So, now we know that we've got 2,219 square feet in Bell Meadows, and I don't normally search by the legal name for the subdivision. I search by the neighborhood, because most of the time that's the way property is listed in our MLS system, by neighborhood. The reason we do that is because Bell Meadows has a legal description of Bell Meadows, but there's also another part of Bellwood that it has, that's called Bellwood.
Yeah.
There's Bellwood.
The sign when you
East.
turn in says Bellwood.
Right, it's Bellwood West, so if you search by legal description, then you could very easily miss something. Sturbridge, you search Sturbridge, there's Sturbridge Commons, there's Sturbridge this, that, and the other. Capitol Heights, there's probably a half a dozen different legal descriptions for Capitol Heights, but everybody calls that whole area Capitol Heights. So I was on the committee when we designed this system way back when I was a teenager. This came up and I said, people think in terms of neighborhoods, they don't think in terms of legal description. So, you know, that's the way we set it up, and you'll note on the listing profile sheet, it says neighborhood. So that's the way you do it, but now we've got some information we can use. So, let's go in here and do a search. Two things you want to know as far as two things you're looking for when you're doing the market analysis. You want to know that your listing is competitive. In other words, it's not way out of line as far as the pricing is concerned, and you want to know what you think it might sell for. Those two items you need in your market analysis. When you're making your listing, that's exactly what they're going to ask you. You know, what do you think it's worth? And then what do you think it'll sell for? Okay? And that's basically, the appraiser's doing basically what we're doing, is just a little more detailed. So we're looking for single family, and we want sold properties, and note here, it goes back 180 days, 6 months. 6 months is a good time frame for market analysis, all right? Sometimes you run into a fairly small subdivision where you don't have a lot of comps. And Gene and I got in this discussion this morning when I was picking his brain a little bit. And he said, oh, you can't. I said, when you run into a subdivision where you don't have a lot of comps, you don't have enough to really come up with what you need, the information that you got to have to justify the pricing on it, then I go back a year. And, you know, the market has not changed that much in a year. You've seen that change from 3% interest rates to 7% interest rates, and slowed the overall market down. But property values, if they've increased much, it's probably 3 or 4%. The stats and the boards, you can really pull it out and find out for sure. But you haven't had a radical price increase like you did when people went crazy a few years ago. So I go back 6 months. I'm looking in now area. You have, believe it or not, you'll have a situation where area 9. Oh, what are we doing here? 9. There's a Green Acres in Montgomery. There's a Green Acres in Millbrook. If you put Green Acres in there and don't put the area for the Montgomery Green Acres, you're gonna pull data out of both subdivisions. So include the neighborhood. You'll learn, by the way, the areas as you get more into it. Neighborhood, we're gonna call it Bellwood. You see your total start to come up. Now I got 7. And what I'm gonna do, I don't care about bedrooms at this point in time. Baths I do. 2+, I always put the plus there. You may end up with a half bath. And a lot of times a half bath to show, say this house had 2.5 baths, it might show us 3 baths. So bear that in mind. Square footage, the house has got, the subject property's got 2,200 square feet in it, give or take. I'm gonna scan from about, say, 1,900 to 2,500. And that's gonna tell me basically what I'm looking, that gives me basically what I'm looking for. And year built, 1980. And we're gonna go plus. Now, here's your little caveat. house is built in 1975, and the subdivision has continued to expand. You've got houses that were built from 1975 to 2010. You can't use those 2010 properties as a good comp because floor plans have changed pretty much radically. You know, your subdivision in County Downs, you're in one of the newer houses. The front end of County Downs, the houses were built in the early 80s, you know, so those houses are different from yours. You got more amenities in yours than the one right there at the front of County Downs. Okay, so same scenario applies. If I were doing your house, I'd be looking at the ones in the back end, and they're still building new houses back in there. You know, I sold 6 lots last year before last, 6 lots in there on the back end of County Downs. They're building big houses on them, you know. So this new construction.
My house looks small now.
You know, so bear that in mind. The year built is a factor, and that's why the tax records clarified or made sure that we had the right year built. Now I got 7. Bedrooms are not a big deal because basically I'm looking at a living space. Here's the thing about the number of bedrooms. People that are looking for a 4-bedroom house will not consider a 3. Now, you wanna know, here's the thing y'all wanna know. Why do you need a 4-bedroom house? I got 3 kids. We'll find you a 4-bedroom house. Why do you need a 4-bedroom house? Well, I got a kid, but I need a study. Now I can say 3 plus a study or 4 bedrooms. It opens the search area up a little bit. So you gotta ask questions. Make sure you understand what they're looking for. And I told you the other day, buyers don't know what they're looking for, and they don't. So, you know, you ask the questions. In this instance, I don't worry about the bedrooms. I'm looking basically, I wanna know about square footage. I wanna know what my comps look like, what my numbers look like. One of the things that you will run into, and this is one of my pet peeves, there are I guess there are some garden homes.
There's some
townhouses.
Yeah.
Now, here's the problem that you run into. This is one of my pet peeves, and I've talked to Jennifer at the board several times, said, isn't there a way we can fix this? And there's not, she says. There are agents out there that will list a garden home as single family. And I have a problem with that. Ricky, you need a garden home, okay? So I scanned the database, and I find garden homes. And we go look at one in Sturbridge, on Harvest Ridge, okay? Shows us the garden home. There's one across the street that's on the same size lot. Well, why didn't we look at that one? Didn't show up in the database. The agents listed it as a single family, you know? And I have a problem with that, because you want a garden home, but you want a single family. So I pull you up in front of Harvest Ridge and in front of a garden home, you say, what are we doing here? You know? Now that's not the agent, doesn't necessarily know where things like that are listed. You know, I know where garden homes are and where townhouses are. And if I see a house that shows single family on Harvest Ridge, I know it's a garden home. So I'm not even gonna put it on my list to show, because my folks want a single family, okay? So bear that in mind. So think in those terms. Just as an aside, you know the difference between a garden home and a condo and a townhouse? What's a condo?
Condo where they're attached up against, you know, and there's no wall space between.
Let me just explain it real quick. Condo, you own the inside walls. You don't own any dirt. The land it's built on belongs to the condominium association. A townhouse, they're built together, common walls. And a patio home is a detached unit. Now, you may have a patio home that's built on what they call a zero lot line. In other words, one wall is on the lot line and there's no openings because the next door neighbor's patio's right there. And if he wants to go skinny dipping in his hot tub, he don't want anybody looking out the window at him, you know? You've got, so patio homes, townhouses and condos, you don't have many condos. Trinity Boulevard, there's some condominiums over there, Trinity condos. You don't see many of them. Bellwood's got some townhouses over there right off Bell Road, okay? And there's some garden homes. I don't know if that's platted as Woodmere though.
Woodmere, I think is.
Woodmere and then Bellwood West.
Bellwood
have
West,
garden.
Yeah.
probably across Bell
Big.
Road, there's garden homes over there. So bear that in mind, that's why I've got that in there as far as, the different types of residence. Car storage, you have to make some allowances. If you've got a house that's, you have to park in the driveway, there's no car storage. You have, and your comps show, a couple of your comps show they've got a double garage. A double garage these days is $15,000 to $20,000. Carport, stick-built carport is worth probably $12,000 to $15,000 with storage. A shed-type carport that was added as aluminum, I don't give them any value. Same thing with swimming pool. I don't give them any value to a swimming pool. I tell folks if they want one with a swimming pool, they're gonna add a swimming pool, enjoy it. Because you will not get your money back.
Mhm.
The appraiser may give you a couple of $3,000 for it, but very seldom will he make much of an adjustment. Carport, stick-built carport or garage, they will make some adjustments on the pricing. I don't want to get into it that much, but if I've got a house that doesn't have any kind of car storage and I'm using a house that does have a garage or a carport, stick-built garage or a carport, I might make some adjustments there. But basically, when you're pulling heating and cool living space, that's all you're gonna get, is how big the house is. Heating and cool living space is, they measure the outside slab. This was a house, they would measure outside length, width, calculated, and that's your heating and cool living space. No allowances for walls, no allowances for anything that takes up space that's not livable. And if you have a utility room that doesn't have a register in it, air conditioning register in it, that doesn't count. It will not be included in heating and cool living space, okay? So, with that said, we've got 7 properties, so let's see what we're dealing with. Oh, what is this? What are you talking about? Well, that's just, is that a question mark?
That's a question mark.
Oh, you got better eyes than me. Why didn't I pull up anything?
I think cause the dash is in the active space, Mr.
I'm
Sewell.
sorry?
It's some dashes in there, if you go to that active space.
Where that
search the
red-
status, in that red box,
That?
and then go down and
Oh,
click in
thank
that
you.
field.
Wait a minute, say that again. What am I missing?
Click in the red box?
Yeah,
where
click in the red box, and then just delete that, cause it's like dashes in there, as far as I can see.
What
See
is
if
it?
you can clear that out,
Oh,
yeah.
Bunch of dashes.
I see
Mhm.
what you're talking about, that.
Yeah.
This dead blank thing is giving me fits today.
Wow.
I don't know why that's, I asked, in fact, I've had Stephanie. I've got 7 actors in. Why is it doing that?
Yeah, stay up in there.
Doesn't make any sense.
Now you've
No
got
results.
0 matches.
Now let's clear.
I don't know why it's doing it. It's like this keyboard, like something stuck.
Yep.
Yeah. There we go, I think so.
Driving me crazy, I hate computers. Let's see what happens here. Okay, there's
There you
six. I've got one active, 5 souls. Sort them. What I'm looking for is right here. Days on market and over here. One thing that I didn't put in here that you need to put in here. Let me go back to criteria and show you this little wrinkle. REO. I don't want foreclosures. Now, here's your little wrinkle. And Fannie Mae used to sell all their houses as is. Gene Robinson, you don't know Gene, you'll meet him. He's an REO man, a Fannie Mae foreclosure expert, you know. He gets kind of ornery sometimes, but you just got to get used to Gene. He's really a real nice guy. The only problem, he doesn't know how to catch fish. But Fannie Mae used to, as I said, sell properties as they sit. In other words, you go in there, it's a wreck, you're gonna buy it, you're gonna come in and spend a bunch of money, get it straightened out, either flip it apart or move into it as a primary residence or rent it. That was it, okay? They have changed their mind about doing that because the government said, we can make more money and we can make sure people that need a house can get a house, so we're gonna start renovating them. And they're doing it. They're spending crazy amounts of money on houses. It just doesn't make any sense. But, you know, it's mine and your money, and I'm spending your money, so I don't care. But basically, the houses that they foreclose on and renovate are real nice. They turn out to be, they don't skimp. I mean, they spend it, pure and simple. So the houses are in real good shape. When you say REOs, you don't want an REO. Real estate owned is what it means basically. And it could be an individual that's foreclosed on it, that's not gonna do anything with it, but it's a foreclosure and it has to show in the listing whether it's a foreclosure or not. It could be a bank, it could be, a VA foreclosure. It could be there's several different ways that a foreclosure can happen, and an individual or a company own the property and they're not going to do anything with it. They don't want to spend the money to renovate it, so they're just gonna sell it like it sits and let who buys it take that chore on, you know. So if you see foreclosure and it's a Fannie Mae foreclosure, then it can be real nice, you know. So bear that in mind. So we've got 6 matches. The results shows these 6 houses. We've got one active that's priced at $104.87 a square foot. These are pretty much in line with values. What I'm looking at is in this, and most of the time what you'll do is when you're figuring averages, you're gonna throw the high and the low out, okay? What I normally try to come up with is some range of price per square foot. It's gonna be about $10 to $15 a square foot variable from low to high. That gives me a real good feel for what is normally happening in that subdivision. And what I'm looking for is what do I think that average house is gonna sell for, okay? If you crank that into your square footage on the house, and you figure it's gonna sell for somewhere in that range, pretty close to that average price per square foot. Now, if it's a cream puff, you're gonna be looking at that $117 a square foot. If it's a dog, you're gonna be looking at $82 a square foot. But on average, it's gonna fall somewhere in that $105 to $108 square foot range. That's your average house. Needs a few things. May need carpet in a few rooms, a couple, $3,000. Paint a couple of rooms here, there, and yon, another couple of grand maybe. So you spend $5,000 or $6,000, $7,000 on the house and have a pretty nice house, you know. I don't worry about appliances, I don't worry about heating and air systems, other than the fact that I want them to work. I want to know my inspector goes in there, he says, yes, it works, it's doing what it's supposed to do, the differential on the air conditioning system is within that 14 to 21 degree range. You know, you turn the hot water faucet on, and the water heater produces hot water, and it's a water heater, by the way, it's not a hot water heater. If the water was hot, you wouldn't need to heat it, right? So, the water heater works. Now, you run into, pardon me, I digress slightly. You run into inspectors that are alarmist, am I right?
Right.
They will say to the buyer, oh, this water heater's 12